Welcome back to segment 3 of the Dental Marketing Summit series. Let's review segment 1 and 2 to bring you up to speed or just refamiliarize you because all this stuff dovetails in with each other. Segment 1, all about the dental consumer. What they like, what they dislike, what matters most, what matters least.
What they know and what they don't know about dentistry and what the benefits are that you offer.
Right. How that all interacts with the message that you put out. We're going to go through the messages in future segments, but that needs to be in your mind when you're building whatever promotion there is, depending on which half. That's the other thing we discussed in segment 1, was the two halves of the dental market, the moms who will choose a healthcare provider based on price and the moms who won't. In segment 2, we went through your marketing plan, the other workbook that we sent or emailed you, and the different components within that. We got about halfway through. Segment 3 is going to be, in large part, the other half of that workbook, of that marketing plan. We need you to understand how all the information that we're providing you impacts you specifically, not just the dental world as a whole. So you're going to want to have your marketing plan open during segment 3. Actually, you might want to have your marketing plan open continually through all these segments, along with the workbook of the slides that we gave you to download. Segment number 3, it's going to begin with how marketable are you? It makes perfect sense that your expectations of what you get from your promotion budget could be dictated by how marketable you are, right? If you're a dentist that only likes doing 2 and 3 surface composites, doesn't do any perio, doesn't do any endo, has hardly any technology, isn't convenient to anyone but yourself, right? You're not very marketable.
Right.
Right? That's
marketability is all about your attractiveness to by the customers. What do they want? Do you have a wide number of offerings or just a limited number? Wide amount of technology or just very small amount? So it can make a big difference in your results.
Now, on your marketing plan, we took what you gave us as your marketable attributes and we listed them. They're not necessarily in priority order, but through this communication, you can start putting them in priority order for sure, because we're going to go through most of them and we're going to explain to you not only what they are, but where to prioritize them. Let's use a 1 through 10. We'll use a 1 through 10 for each one so that you can start to score these in order of importance in their ability to generate a response from the consumer market. Okay. The first one, which normally gets overlooked, but it can't be overlooked, is: are you a male dentist or a female dentist? Being a female dentist willing to work with children is the #1 marketable attribute in dentistry. Moms are far better, or they're going to bring their children to a female dentist sooner. If they have the choice, they're going to bring their children to a female dentist.
Right, and that makes sense when you think about the mom, and how she relates to children and others. I mean, as a female, you've pretty much got the perceived lock on the whole compassionate, caring, gentle kind of
nurturing,
means, right?
Right, nurturing,
right. So a female dentist actually in a 1 to 3,000 doctor-patient ratio in the rural Midwest, you're going to have $1 million, and who does ortho,
yeah,
you're going to have $1 million practice
right
very quickly.
Right, very quickly.
So.
Yeah, now, guys, it doesn't mean you're locked out. Okay, it doesn't mean we're going to send you somewhere for an operation. Okay, it just means that you know what you're up against. Okay, the female dentist will almost always be looked upon as more communicative and more understanding. So the fearful patient may align themselves more with a female dentist than a male dentist.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a dentist and you're looking for an associate, this happens actually quite a bit.
Yeah.
We'll have a dentist contact us, or one that's been in contact with us for many years. They're ready to expand. And I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say it's a male solo practice. They've added a couple of operatories and they're looking for their first new associate. And the male dentist doesn't like working with kids anymore. They've probably been practicing for 15 or 20 years, and they don't really do any endo. And the last ortho course they took was back in dental school. Well, okay, what are you looking for?
Yeah, a lot of a key mistake can be made at that point if you seek out somebody who's just like you.
Right.
Shouldn't do that. You should seek out an associate that's different than you,
The
that is willing to work with kids, does love endomolar,
right.
molar endo, and can do ortho or short-term ortho, so that you can add to your service lineup and add to your marketable attributes,
Right.
instead of just getting a carbon copy of you.
Right. And that's the balance of male and female. Okay. It it is demonstrably statistically obvious to us when we promote a female dentist versus a male dentist,
Mm-hmm.
how we promote them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a male dentist, um, you that's what you're up against. If you're a female dentist, you have this other whole subset of marketable attributes that you can use to promote your practice. Do you provide a unique service, or perceived unique within your market area? Now, yeah, tell them what that means.
Well, the essence of marketing is to distinguish yourself from the crowd, right? So if the public has the perception that dentists are more or less the same, I mean, we know that's not true, right? There are vast differences in experience and in providers and in what you offer your public. So, but you don't necessarily have to come up with some unique thing like, oh, we're the only ones that are doing short-term ortho in our area. That's good. That sets you apart from the crowd. But things that practically all of you might have, an intraoral camera, for example, uh, if you're not promoting it, then you sort of fade into the woodwork, right? But if you do promote it, and to the public who doesn't really understand what an intraoral camera is all about, then you are perceived to be unique in that regard.
If no other dentist is promoting it,
Yes.
or there isn't a big saturation of dentists promoting it. A great example is cosmetic dentistry. Okay.
Right.
All right. Cosmetic dentistry, I know it's hard for the audience to raise their hands, but normally in a live audience, we'll ask the question, how many dentists in this room think cosmetic dentistry is a niche?
Right.
And they kind of laugh. They're like, yeah, no, I don't know a dentist who's not a cosmetic dentist.
I don't either.
I've been working with dentists for 24 years.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever run into a dentist.
Yeah, you all want your work to look great, right? So you're a cosmetic dentist.
Right. And what happened is over the years, the shift and the focus was on cosmetics. So all of you poured an overabundance of your marketing dollars into the message cosmetic dentistry. Well, what happens is it basically destroyed the difference between your cosmetic dentistry and the other cosmetic dentistry. See how that works? Another great example is something as widespread as digital x-rays.
Mm-hmm.
You may have digital x-rays in your practice. There may be 15 out of the 20 dental offices in your core market area that also have digital x-rays in their practices. So you don't think it's even worthwhile promoting the benefits of digital x-rays that you've invested in.
But if they're not promoting it, all of a sudden that makes you unique.
Exactly. Okay, so when we say unique service, we're talking about a perception here. It doesn't mean that you have to be the first person in your area with a CAD CAM system. That's not what it means. You could have 9 other dentists in your area with a CAD/CAM system,
Hmm.
but if those 9 other dentists aren't promoting the benefits properly, you're the only one who is. That makes you unique. That's the point we're trying to get through here. So as you're collecting the marketing materials from the other dentists around you, you can actually create a list. You can create a list of all the things they are missing
Hmm.
and uh, log that against the list of your marketable attributes.
Hmm.
And what will come to light very quickly are the things that you should focus on.
Hmm.
Okay,
Things you should emphasize.
that's right.
Another marketable attribute is, have you ever been published anywhere? In a dental journal, in the paper, an Ask the Dentist column, something like that. That makes you unique because people give more credibility to somebody who has been in the media, whether it's the dental media or the public media. And it kind of acts as a third party endorsement. In other words, people seem to think that if you are on their television or you have been published, you're a teacher of other dentists, that goes a long way to establishing trust and respect and credibility. Because if you're a dental patient, do you want to go to the student or do you want to go to the teacher, right? So if you have in any capacity, taught, lectured to other dentists, or been published in the dental media, then that's very marketable. You should mention it in your marketing.
Absolutely. Same thing with clinical research.
Hmm.
We'll oftentimes on the client surveys, the online surveys that you took, we'll have, they were clinical researcher for all these companies and all these products. And some of them have actually done their own clinical research and they never mention it in anything,
Yeah.
ever. They never mention it anywhere, which is also a very powerful marketable attribute. The longevity of the practice can be key. And this is true for all the dentists who call and they'll say, hey, I've been practicing here for 20 years, or I'm the son of a dentist and my father was a dentist here in a small town and now I took over and I, marketable attributes, serving the local community for over 35 years. You want trust and respect, right?
Hmm.
That's incredibly important and really has nothing to do with dentistry. And it's a competitive advantage because I'm sure there's very few dentists in the area that can claim they've been serving the community for the last 35 years. That's enormous.
Hmm.
And we hardly ever see it in the dental advertising that we receive,
Hmm.
from outside.
Right.
So, I mean, there's one right there. Another one might be, and this could be connected to school. Let's say that you went to, let's say there's a school in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Okay. And you went to that dental school and you opened your practice in the Bowling Green area and you are from the general Bowling Green, Kentucky area. Um, and you and your spouse and your young child are part of the local Bowling Green community and go to school and play soccer and whatever, okay? We're dealing with mom here, all right? We're trying to connect mom emotionally to you in that building respect and trust that Hallie was talking about. The longevity and your interaction with the community, you're part of the community, all of that stuff is priceless.
Hmm.
It's absolutely priceless. Obviously, if you just moved to the area and you only know 4 people, the real estate agent and 2 attorneys and somebody else and this guy at 7-Eleven, then you can't use it. But most of you have these marketable attributes and you don't recognize them and you don't use them
Hmm.
and you're missing a real good opportunity.
Another one is military service.
Oh,
We've
huge.
several clients who have uh, been in the military as dentists. And right now, especially, that's a very good marketable attribute. If you can say that you've spent some time in the military serving your country, that's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Absolutely. Another one would be any local charitable events.
Right.
or even public relation events that you've been a part of. We know of several dentists who will have it's Dentistry from the Heart is one of the organizations, right?
Hmm.
Where they have sort of like a free dentistry day where they, and they'll call in the local newspapers, the radio stations,
Hmm.
and the television stations to cover it. And there'll be a line out inside of the front of their office, and they'll bring in their dental colleagues for the day, and everybody will be gloved
Hmm.
up and rock and roll. It's a great, it's a tremendous opportunity.
Right.
Um,
You'll get local coverage for sure. In fact, just about a week ago, I saw something in a national publication about Free Dentistry Day, and they took a picture of the line
right,
of people, right? Well, so it's not just local. You could actually get national coverage for it. So,
right. Another one might be the candy buyback
right.
program. Uh, the way the candy buyback program works is around Halloween time. You promote this event, you share it with the newspaper, share it with the radio stations, television stations, local cable stations, and what have you. And the way it works is you agree to pay $1 a pound or $2 a pound for the candy that the kids go out on trick or treat and they collect. And as a dentist, that makes sense because you don't want them to eat all that candy and rot out their teeth, right? To mom, it makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
Okay. So she brings her children in, and if she's not already a patient, gets to know the office, right?
Hmm.
And gets to meet everybody and everybody on the team because you have to weigh the candy,
Hmm.
right? On a scale. And you know what's really the most wonderful thing about this is you box up the candy and send it over via USO, and it goes to our troops overseas. So, and the other beautiful part of it is the cost is almost nothing. I mean, you're, a couple $100 or whatever it is,
Hmm.
out of pocket to make tons of kids happy, tons of moms happy, and tons of our service personnel thrilled, because they're going to get this big box
And then
of
they're going to come back with a lot of
yeah,
cavities.
yeah, now, but but you get the idea. These things are all, you can always refer to these things. Another one would be those trips that the dentist will take to
Oh, yeah,
for
mission dinner.
yeah, mission. They'll go on a dental mission to a different country, which has a much lower socioeconomic stature or position than the U.S. just to help people,
Hmm.
just to, all of those things are incredibly powerful when building respect and trust.
Hmm.
And those are the first two things you have to do with the top half of the market. With the bottom half of the market, all you got to do is say $39 exam cleaning. You're good, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't take rocket science. For the top half of the market, um, those other things are significantly important. So do you have enough to promote and to go after the top half of the dental market and be successful? I mean, I think that's the big question. If you think you do, which of the attributes will you use in your advertising? Now, remember, let's go back to segment 1. All right? This is why we keep going back segments and reviewing what you learned. Segment 1, we basically broke it out. We said conveniences, services,
Technology.
and some technology. And if you can weave in some public relations story,
Hmm.
like a candy buyback program,
Hmm.
or you might have seen Dr. Smith on Channel 3,
Hmm.
or clinical research Dr. Smith did with what, or a mission to Costa Rica that Dr. Smith just took, or
Hmm.
if you can mix a couple of those in, man, you've got a powerful piece that absolutely will penetrate the top half of the dental market in your community. I don't care. It doesn't matter how competitive it is. It will penetrate it. It may
Hmm.
take a little longer, the more competitive it is, but it will penetrate that market. What else about marketing, or what else about marketable attributes what other questions do we get from the audience about CAD CAM. We will get mostly technology. How do I promote lasers?
Hmm.
You can promote lasers as a non-surgical treatment and then make the connection of perio and heart disease basically in the same sentence. What you can't really do well is promote one laser over another,
hmm
because you'll lose them, because they don't get the benefit to them. They'll only get the benefit to them. No scalpels, no sutures, right?
hmm
They get that. And but if you're comparing, if you go say I'm the first dentist in central Pennsylvania with a Apollo zipper laser, they won't care.
Yeah.
They will have it. It absolutely will not matter to them, and it's not worth even mentioning. Um, what other we get questions about short-term ortho. We get questions
Right.
about sleep apnea.
Right.
Okay, there's a million marketable attributes out there that are extremely marketable.
Right.
Um,
Apnea is becoming very popular.
right.
With the spread of sleep apnea recognition, we can't say that you diagnose it and treat it because that's out of the scope of dentistry, but you can certainly observe it and make recommendations. And there's a bunch of good CE courses out there on this, and it opens up a whole new avenue for you to promote, and a big benefit. You can save people's lives by recognizing that they have apnea
And helping them treat
and
it.
helping them treat it.
Yep. 6-month ortho.
Yep.
Enormous market potential in almost any market, really. I mean, even in markets where there's already 2 or 3 other
hmm
6-month smiles, or other
hmm
dentists that are largely because the other dentists, most of them aren't promoting it properly. So
hmm
if you promote it properly, again, you're
hmm
perceived, to be the unique provider of that service.
Yeah. There's a caveat, however. You don't want to just promote that
Correct.
niche, right?
Right.
Because what you can do is what we call get yourself into a niche trap. For example, sedation radio spots. If that's the only thing that you're promoting in the radio spot,
In anything.
in anything
In anything.
actually,
Yeah.
or in print or in mail,
Right.
then the community will come to perceive that that's all you do. So they'll think, well, if I go to Dr. Smith, he's going to knock me out. Well, what if they have a phobia about being knocked out? Many people do. They don't want to be knocked out,
Especially women.
especially women,
Right.
and I think you can understand why.
Right.
Uh, and likewise, not everybody is afraid of the dentist,
Right.
right? So you don't want to just trap yourself into one avenue because you will end up being perceived as that is the only thing that you do. You need to give people a wide number of choices, reasons to choose you. So if, for example, you're going to do a radio series of spots, you make the first one maybe about sedation. The next one in the series will be about metal-free dentistry or sleep apnea or your
6-month
beautiful,
smiles.
6-month smiles, your beautiful dentures that you
Right.
provide. And you rotate it that way. That way you don't trap yourself into one avenue.
They still know you do this thing, but then the perception gets wider and becomes, wow, this person does everything,
hmm
right?
Which is a great niche.
Which is a list of things that no other dentist is telling me about.
Yeah.
So that dentist must be great. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. Is you take these marketable attributes, you prioritize them, you group them first into conveniences, technologies, and services.
hmm
Then you prioritize the group, and then you look, maybe you have 8 or 9. Okay, so I have 8 or 9 priority marketable attributes. These are the things I want to move forward with. And you never move forward with one at a time, like Howie said, because you're only first of all, you're only speaking to 5% of the market anyway. So you're 95% of whatever it's costing you is waste. So you rotate in multiple messages about all these things until the perception and familiarity is built to the point where, wow, this guy or gal does
All under one roof. I
all
can get
under one roof,
all of this done.
everything.
Right.
Almost. And then the next obvious perception is, I can go there and get anything done.
hmm
Right? There's nothing this person doesn't do
hmm
that I can't have. That's where you want to be. It takes a while to get there,
hmm
okay? But that's where you want to end up. So that's how you organize your marketable attributes. That's how you prioritize them. That's how you group them. And once you have that group, then you can do something with them.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, by the way, it never hurts to improve your marketable attributes,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, most dentists that we know and have dealt with over all these years, they take 60, 80, 100,
Oh, yeah.
200 hours of CE a year. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, you can even prioritize your CE. You can say, okay, each year I'm going to take at least one course,
Right.
just one,
Right.
that gives me one more marketable attribute.
Right. So that just gave me an idea. I mean, an example of that is, say you hate endo, you refer it all out. Well, you're sending money
Great
out
example.
of your practice
Right.
because you perceive that you don't like it. Okay, well, that's understandable. But you know that you can find a continuing education course out there that will, in a weekend, teach you how to do endo. That'll also teach you what endo to stay away from and refer out. So we're not saying that you have to do it all, but even if you did half of what you're sending away, there's another avenue for you to attract the consumer, and you keep that money in your practice
Hmm. Yeah,
because patients hate to be referred out. You
they
know that.
hate, mom hates. Let's create an example, and then maybe this will drill it home. Mom, family situation, mom, dad, two kids, right? Okay. We've got a 4-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid. Pretty standard American family situation.
Mm-hmm.
Dad is scared to death, needs a dentist that does sedation. Mom needs someone that's willing to treat children, someone that is willing to have hours outside of 8 to 5, the most inconvenient hours dentists can possibly have. Mom needs someone to take care of her 4-year-old, a pedodontist or someone, a GP willing to treat 4-year-olds. Mom needs somebody for the 12-year-old because the
Ortho.
12-year-old's going into ortho.
Right.
Okay. And mom has acute pain and needs a root canal.
Right.
Okay. So now let's stop here. Let's get a dentist.
Dad also snores.
Dad snores. Okay. So we have all this stuff going on in a pretty typical family, American family. Okay. So now let's look at John or Jane Q dentist who doesn't do endo, doesn't do ortho, hates working with kids because they squirm a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now look at mom and what mom has to go through. Mom could have a choice of going to one practice, meeting one dentist, maybe two, dealing with one person up at the front desk to handle the appointments, one person at the front desk to handle the bills and talk to about insurance. She
Mm-hmm.
has that as a choice. I guarantee you in your market, she has that as a choice. Or 4 practices, 4 different addresses, 4 different areas to park, 4 different people to work with on the scheduling of the appointments, 4 different people to talk about with insurance, 4 at least 4 different dentists.
That's a lot of relationships.
Okay, that's a gazillion relationships. When mom, and you gotta think like a mom. Mom loves to make her life easier. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and they have busy, busy, busy lives these days. Okay, so the easier you can make mom's life, the better. And so if you can add one of these marketable attributes a year,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're going to practice for the next 15, 20 years, and you add one marketable attribute a year for the next 5,
Mm-hmm.
you're you're way, way, way ahead of the game, right?
Yep. Yep.
Right? Okay. All right. The next section of segment 3 is really near and dear to my heart because, well, I'll give you my perspective. My perspective is, and uh, sometimes people don't appreciate this, but my perspective is if it doesn't exist in proof, if it doesn't exist in a number, it doesn't exist. And what this has to relate to is the performance of your marketing. And as nicely as I can put this is how I'm going to put it. We have interviewed, let's say thousands, and pull numbers in from, let's just say thousands of dental practices over the years. And I hate to be the guy to inform you, please don't shoot the messenger, but the numbers inside of your practice management software are wrong. There's many reasons why they're wrong. And I don't think anybody is being mean or not doing it on purpose or giving you the wrong information on purpose. I don't think that. But I think that when someone responds to an advertising piece, that person has to show up in the office and remember which advertising piece they saw first. And that person has to be willing to remember that. And that person has to be willing to communicate that to the front desk person in your practice. And your front desk person has to have the systems down and the referral field set up properly and has to remember to put that in the referral field just for you to get 50% accurate information. And you don't base, a CEO does not base marketing decisions or business decisions on information that is at best 50% accurate. And let's say that your practice is better than 50%. Let's say it's 70%.
That would be unusual.
That would be unusual, but okay. Let's say your patients really do remember, they really are willing to communicate. Your staff does put it in the referral field every time. And let's say that everybody knows how to use your practice management software properly to make sure that all the referral fields are filled in for every new patient. Let's just say it's a perfect world in your dental practice. Even at 70 or 80% accurate, the CEO of a business can't make credible decisions. So, what we're going to recommend to you is you need to account for not only the number of new patients, but you need to account for the number of inquiries. Promotion, whether you're doing it internally, website, mail, radio, print, whatever, it's costing some money. It's not zero. It's greater than zero. We can all agree that it's greater than zero. So for those things that you allocate more than 10% of your marketing budget to each year, we want you as the CEO to know every single human being that called in off of that ad or that mailer or that radio spot or what have you. We don't want you to guess. Okay? We want you to know the number of inquiries that your investment is generating. That's the first thing. Okay. The second thing is we want to know the number of new patients by promotion source. Okay. So you may get, well, make an example. Let's say you run a radio ad and you receive 30 phone calls in 1 month. Yet you only see 6 new patients in your practice management software. You can't answer the question why. That's a problem. The CEOs always ask why. They ask why about everything. Even if things are going good, they ask why. Especially when things are going good, they ask why, okay?
Well,
you know, why did I pay for 30 people to call and why did only 6 show up?
exactly. And another similar example is, the old days when there was a lot of yellow page advertising going on. You'd go all year just sort of sensing or thinking that you were getting a response out of this medium. And then like clockwork, like Christmas every year, the rep calls you up and says, it's time to re-up. And, a deadline's in 3 days.
Yeah.
And they try to upsell you and so forth. I mean, you might have been spending $2,500 a month on a yellow page ad. You're being asked to make a $24,000 decision based on no data. That's insane.
Or poor data.
Right.
And it's actually 2,500. Yeah, that's $27,000 a year. That's probably 50-60% of your entire budget, or more. Could be 80. Could be your whole budget. Right. So you're going to make a decision on your whole budget with no data or limited data, which is always not credible. Okay. So what we're saying is when you're the CEO of your dental practice, you have to account for the inquiries. Once you account for the inquiries, you can actually listen to the phone calls. Now you can account for the interaction between your team and the inquirer, right? If you're going to do a 6-month insert campaign through your local newspapers every other Tuesday about whatever, okay? If you're going to do that and you're going to spend $1,860 every time you do a drop, don't you want to know exactly how many people called off of that mailer? And if you did find that a good volume of people that called, but few turned into new patients, as the CEO, you have to ask why. Well, if you can listen to the phone call, you can determine why. We're not blaming all dental staff people in the world for alienating potential new patients, right? That's
No.
not what we're saying.
No.
What we're saying is that the number of team members who need training is greater than 0.
Right.
Okay? Let me also tell you that the dentist and their new patient regimen is also responsible for turning away inquiries and clobbering compliance, right? Okay? You may be the type of dentist, now doctor, we're not saying this is good or bad. We're the reporters here, okay? All I'm saying is if a patient says, hi, I'm new to the area and I want to come in initially to get my teeth cleaned, and if you are bringing them in through the exam and it's $300 and it's an hour in your chair initially, they go away, they come back, you have your diagnostic wax up and your models and you're ready for your treatment plan, and it's, now I'm 2 hours in and I haven't received what I initially requested, was to get my teeth cleaned. We're not saying it's right or wrong. We're not saying it's clinically right or anything. We're just saying that when a consumer calls and says, I'd like to get X, whatever X is, within reason, either do X or explain very carefully why X is coming very shortly. Okay?
We have a client who it's their motto in their practice. We never say no to a patient.
Never.
To a reasonable request.
Right.
Everything they do is built around yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we will. Now, how do you track? How do you get this set up?
Well, what you want to do is you want to allocate your budget correctly. We discussed that in the previous segment. In this area, what you see on your screen is you see what's called a call tracking report. The call tracking report, you can notice on the left-hand side, you're going to see some microphones, pictures of a speakerphone. That's where you can click and listen to the phone call. It's in date order, so you know date ranges. Let's say I'm at home. I'm a dentist. I'm at home on the weekend, and I just want to see how my promotion is doing for the last 3 months. I just go into the system, put in 3 months date, bang, there's every phone call that came in from that specific promotion, whether it's the mailer or the insert campaign or the magazine or the radio or the television. It doesn't matter, okay? And you look at it and say, well, I just want the unique callers. Okay, show me just the unique callers. And let's say you see 18 unique calls and you log on to your practice management software at work and you only see 5 new patients. That immediately tells you, listen to those phone calls, okay? Because the people at your front desk will make you or break you. They have to know how to handle the hard questions. Now,
they are the most important people in the practice.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. The hard questions are not easy. That's why I'm calling them hard. If I were to line up 100 dentists and say, how would you handle this question? Do you take my insurance? No. Why not? You would have a hard time answering that question. Here's another one. How much is your crown? Even though you know your crown is $1,100, you know that's not what you're going to say, and then you know that's not what you should say. And you as a dentist would have a hard time answering that question. Most of you would, okay? Your staff has the same problem. So when do you want to find this out? Do you want to find this out $40,000 into a campaign? Or do you want to find it out in your first month and
Mhm.
get them the help they need? It's not their fault. They just don't have the guidance. Those hard questions are hard
Right.
for a reason.
A little explanation on how this works. Every marketing effort, every direct mail campaign or radio spot, et cetera, has a unique phone number attached to it.
Right.
Okay. So when the person calls, you know right away that it's from the mailer or from the radio spot, right?
Right.
Because they're unique numbers and it feeds right into your practice. And you can, and then it goes to the results go on a website that Mark just described. You can log in, give them your username and password, and you can see the activity.
Right.
Uh, there's so many valuable things for this service, and it's so cheap that
Very
it
cheap.
would be ridiculous not to have it because you need to know if your marketing's working. I mean, with our clients, we need to know too, and we need to
Right.
know if it's not, so
Right.
we can do something about it, right?
Right.
Um, Another thing that it can tell you is, say you see 3 or 4 calls from different numbers or different people, and it's 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, and you see by the report that the call wasn't answered. Call was not answered. I mean, it's not like you're out to lunch or this is during business
Normal
hours.
business hours.
Why?
Why isn't
It
right?
it might be somebody's being negligent. It's more often than not somebody's just overwhelmed.
Right.
They can't answer every phone call.
Right.
That's killing your revenues right there.
Right.
And you would never know it unless you had this report. Now you can fix it.
Right.
You can get the front desk some more help. Any number of things you could do.
Right.
But you would never have known that if you
If you
didn't have the call tracking.
if you didn't know.
Yeah.
Another one on the same idea path here is you may be open Monday through Thursday. You may have off Fridays, but you may be getting 5 phone calls every Friday
Hmm.
from new patients.
Or Saturday.
Okay, and I can almost assuredly guarantee you they're ending in hangups if they're on your answering machine. So you may look at that and say, "Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea that 20 inquiries a month were coming in that we didn't have staffing to handle or the systems to handle."
Hmm.
All right, well, it's okay. The whole idea, though, is to discover all these, get them all fixed, because ultimately what you want is you want to spend marketing dollars and have benefit come into your dental practice. It's not just about spending the dollars, it's about fixing some of this other stuff too and allowing you to be an effective CEO, of your practice. It's huge. Don't ignore this page of your workbook. Dog ear this page, highlight it, put a sign on it. The next thing about being a CEO of your dental practice, and this is going to be hopefully easy for you to remember, easy for you to calculate. Having studied the business of dentistry for 24 years now, and seeing just volumes and volumes and volumes of spreadsheets and going through them on a daily basis, I can share with you, the right way to calculate and project return on investment. The classic way to measure return on investment makes perfect sense. And please don't take this as if we're belittling your knowledge. We're not. I mean, this makes perfect sense. The classic way to calculate return on investment is you simply take whatever it costs to promote in a medium, let's say print. Okay. Oh no, let's use Yellow Pages. All right, we're going to use Yellow Pages. Nice even number. Let's say you're going to spend $2,000 a month in the Yellow Pages. That's $24,000 a year. Fine. The old way to calculate return on investment would be to divide the production that you generated by what it cost you, right?
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable, right? So let's say that we generated $48,000 worth of production on the books in the first 12 months from our $24,000 investment. That's about a 2-to-1 return. That's how most people track return. Another example might be, let's say that you started to deploy a mail campaign. It's not an overly aggressive campaign. It's a regular, volume campaign. And let's say that cost was $25,000. And at the end of the year, you looked at your production numbers and it was, let's just use 75,000. Let's do a nice simple 3-to-1. At the end of the year, the dentist would look at that and they'd say, well, I only did a 3-to-1. I have overhead. My overhead's probably 66, 67%. Based on that, why would I reinvest in this? That doesn't make any sense. Okay. And a lot of dentists would then take that money that they were investing, probably quite wisely, and move it from that investment into something else that's going to create a greater risk and eat their money up faster. Okay. This is what we're getting to. All right. So the initial way that you calculate ROI isn't quite right. And what we're going to do is we're going to explain to you why. Same scenario, let's do a mail campaign, spent 25, brought in 75. All right, you're not excited, you're not jumping up and down, right? You're not buying a new Ferrari, but let's take everything else into consideration. We know you're mailing to the right people because they're targeted properly. We know you have your marketable attributes arranged and grouped properly, so we know the right messages going out there. So we know that the people that did come in that generated the 75 tend to be in the top half of the dental market because we're not promoting primarily based on price. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, let me share with you the 5 other ways that ROI is going to build over time. The first one is revenue lag. And everybody forever in the history of this company, for as long as we've been creating spreadsheets and on results, will tell you that the revenues trail the new patients. So a new patient coming in May of any calendar year, it's going to be around October through maybe the following March before the bulk of their revenue comes into the practice. It's called a revenue lag. So anyone that organizes and properly promotes a dental practice with an orchestrated campaign, they always say the same thing. My first year was when I generated momentum. Every year after that, it just kept going up. Part of that reason is revenue lag, because the patient that came in last Thursday is a new patient, no doubt. They spent $320 for their exam and x-rays and a cleaning. There's no doubt. But if you measure it today, the patient from last Thursday, what if they get a full mouth recon next Tuesday? There's 32 grand that we didn't add to the 75. You see what I'm saying? So there's a revenue lag.
Or 2 years later.
Or 2 years later. Or 5 years later. So this revenue lag happens 14 to 18 months typically after the first year. So
because they don't get all their work done.
Everybody doesn't get all their work done all at the same time. They don't refer. The next one is referrals. You bring in a patient from promotion. The best thing you can do is use your internal projects to get that patient to refer a new patient. I hope you all realize that 80% of your referrals were new patients less than 24 months ago. That's where your referrals come from. They come from new patients that have just been introduced to your practice within the last 24 months. So if you start bringing in new blood into your practice and you got a great team, you do great work, you're not hurting anybody, and everybody's happy with their dental work, and they start referring. Now, if that costs you $80 to bring in that first new patient, every patient that comes in afterward cuts that marketing expense in half, right? So we have primary referrals. How about secondary referrals? Secondary referrals are people that your primary referrals referred. And how about all their production and any tertiary referrals that come off of those? How about the recurring revenue? You all have a hygiene department. And if they're the right patients, they're going to be far more compliant to recare than the average patient. So what about all the recurring revenue that comes in, or maybe hey, they may have a wonderfly healthy mouth, and
Hmm.
all they do for the next 6 years is come in for twice a year recare cleanings.
Hmm.
What's that worth? And is that in your calculation? The answer is no. Okay. So when you take a snapshot of return on investment in a tight 12-month window, and you don't realize the average revenue for these patients is wonderful, and you don't understand revenue lag, recurring revenue, primary, secondary, and tertiary referrals, and the value of these, then you may take that marketing money and move it to something that's worse. Okay. That's basically, actually, that happens a lot.
Hmm.
All right. The most important aspect of counting the ROI is really average revenue per new patient in that year. The total number isn't as important as average revenue per new patient.
Hmm.
Example. Let's use our yellow page and our direct mail as examples. Yellow pages, mass media, typical, not always. You'll end up with people who need an emergency, people who don't really have any other selection criteria for dentistry other than where are you,
Hmm.
how close are you to my home.
You get a lot of patients that are oddly allergic to everything except Percodan.
Yeah, yeah, patients who are oddly allergic to anything but Percodan. But I mean, there are some great patients that you get from yellow pages. We're not saying that none of them are. We're just saying that the numbers that we see tell us that the quality of the average new patient from a medium called the yellow pages has been doing this for the last 15 years.
Mhm.
All right, because guess where those people are searching? They're searching on the internet. My kids are 24 to 29 years old. My kids don't know what a yellow page book looks like. Okay, so they're on the computer looking for dentists, but that's a discussion for a different time. Your ROI, if you're going after the top half of the dental market, your ROI is going to double. Your first year ROI will double every 3 years for 6 years. Now, let's take our scenario now. We spent 25 on a mail campaign, 75 came in at the end of the year. You're not thrilled. But how thrilled would you be if I told you that that 75 in in 2.5 more years was going to turn into 150, and in 3 more years that 150 was going to turn into 300? How thrilled would you be to spend 25 to gain 300 6 years from now? And how many of you have a better alternative in the stock market right now? That's that's the difference between ROI build between the market segment, the moms who will choose healthcare providers based on price, and the moms who won't. The moms who choose healthcare providers based on price will return $411 to $635 a year to your practice as a mean average. You may get some with a little more, you get a few with less, but that will be your mean average. The moms in the top half of the market will return just over $930 to $1,260 to your practice within the first year. That's a mean average. Some will be a little bit less, some will be a little bit more. It's double or more the first year, but here's the kicker. The moms in the bottom half of the market don't double again. It takes them twice as long to double. It takes them 6 years. The moms in the top half of the market will double every 3 years for 6 years. That's where the exponential ROI is built. The exponential ROI is built over time. It's with consistency. It's with volume. It's with proper budgeting and proper budget allocation. That's how you create just an incredibly robust return on investment. And it almost never happens in 6 months, right?
No.
Hardly ever happens in a short period of time. That's part of the downside. Part of the downside is that dentists don't really want something to take. You know, they want to plant a grass seed and they want to come back in an hour and see six inches worth of grass. But that's not the way it works. That doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means that's not the way it works. The way it works is you plant your seeds and you let them grow, knowing that as it rains in the future, they're going to grow and they're going to continue to grow and everything's going to grow until you have a forest of grass in front of you and you get tired of mowing the lawn. basically. So that's ROI. So don't trap yourself into the belief that a 3-to-1 is a minimum or a 4-to-1 is a minimum. If it's the yellow page example I gave you before, and you spent 25 a year on the yellow pages and it returned 75, that's nowhere near as good as an ROI as a mailer ROI. Because I know that 75 is not going to double in 3 years and double again in 6 years. I know it's not. It's going to double. It maybe will double within 6 years. So you got to watch where you put your money, and you have to understand how to measure, manage, and project ROI, not based on dollar spent, money brought in, but based on average revenue per new patient. The average revenue per new patient is huge. And you have that information in your practice management software. It's under the heading production by referral source. Production by referral source report will get you the data that you require to make that measurement. This next spreadsheet that you see before you is the same spreadsheet that we showed you before in segment 2, which shows the years, the monthly investment in the annual investment in marketing, and how the ROI multiple drives revenues forward. Notice that it doesn't go up real quick in the first year, but then it begins to take off in the second and subsequent years. We're going to keep bringing this spreadsheet back to you to make other points throughout these segments. Howie, what are some of the questions that we get when we talk about marketable attributes, when we talk about tracking performance? I'm going to add one in there. What other input do we get from our live audiences?
Well, regarding call tracking, a common question is, well, won't they just keep calling the same number even
Right.
after they become a patient, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, it's a possibility, but that might be one little problem that you're going to have to solve along
It's
the
easily
way.
solved. You just, after they become a patient, you give them a new patient packet with only your direct office line number, and you just tell them, well, now you're a patient of record. This is our patient phone line.
Yeah.
And that takes care of the problem immediately.
It's a small price to pay for actually
right.
having that valuable data.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Marketable attributes. Sometimes they can get a little too refined. And I'll be honest with you, we have some that are really challenging to promote.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We promote implant dentistry a lot, and it is very challenging because one of the things you can't do with implant dentistry is show a picture of it.
Right, like the Halloween ad that we showed you earlier.
Right. You can't show a picture of an implant site.
No.
You can show a picture of a restored implant, but the reader won't know what the heck they're looking at.
Right.
Right. So, there are certain challenges to those marketable attributes on that list. Implants is definitely one of them. They have to feel why they don't want their dentures to slip anymore. They have to feel why they don't want dentures in the first place. They have to feel, they have to own the problem before you can sell them the solution. You can't visually show them the solution.
It's too messy.
It's too messy. They don't want to see
ugly. They don't want to see the steps along the way. They just want to see the end result.
Right.
So that's a challenge.
So what did we learn in this segment? We learned marketable attributes one by one, how to prioritize them, how to group them, how to come up with your own list of marketable attributes as per your marketing plan that we accumulated and fed back to you. How to blend them. You learn don't use too much of this and don't use too much of that. You have to have a nice, smooth blend. We emphasized the human side of it, the length of time in the community, the armed services, any charitable contributions, any clinical research, those things. We tried to identify the things that may have just fallen off of your radar completely that 50% of you possess,
Yeah.
so that you can expand your marketable attributes. We discussed adding to your marketable attributes.
Hmm.
You know, one CE course a year. Most of you take 3 or 4. One of them should expand your marketable attributes. The rest of them can be learning things you already know that you just want to polish up on. Okay,
Hmm.
that's fine. And then we went into result tracking with the tracking your incoming calls by promotion source, making sure that your staff is doing the right thing, engaging the client, answering the tough questions, transitioning them into a new patient, making sure that your new patient experience isn't the most rigid in your market area, because if it is, it will have a negative impact on your numbers. We went through ROI. Why the way you count ROI is the wrong way to count ROI, and how to count it correctly. We took into consider revenue lag, primary referrals, secondary referrals, tertiary referrals, and recurring revenue. You guys learned a lot. You guys learned a lot in this segment.
Yeah.
Segment number 4, we are going to go through, we're going to start going through all of the mediums, the promotion mediums, one by one. And we're going to show you examples. We're going to show you designs. We're going to discuss what designs, how to judge designs, and try to guide you through the process of guiding whoever it is that's helping you with your marketing.
There's something that I have to warn you about in the next segment. A lot of you are not going to like what we have to say, so now
Yeah,
you
you
have to
will.
turn in to see it. You won't like it at first.
Right.
There's a big difference between what you like as far as design and what the public will respond to.
That is
And that's
true.
exactly what we're going to detail in the next segment.
We'll see you there.
Thanks.